teaching us this exercise? Is this another piece of curriculum we have to add to the list? And yeah, so if you see the Masich Internal Arts curriculum library, you'll see seated practices, but it doesn't break them down what they all are. So this is one. Breath placement, qigong is another. Various kind of sitting practices. If you want to take this practice on, I recommend it. But I can also understand that we have a lot of material to work on, right? But what I really want you to see is that there's a strong correlation between the ideas that are presented in this ancient Neigong practice. This is an old practice, one of the oldest still known practices. We know what the exercises were. There's drawings for them, by the way, too. We know even the numbers of repetitions. It's one of the oldest Neigong practices. The way the practice is structured is very similar to these ideas that we see in the Tai Chi classics or in other Taoist alchemical texts. People have been taking this stuff seriously for quite a long time. Whole civilizations have come and gone since these exercises were first practiced. This week we're kind of introducing a whole host of ideas. Hey? So there's this idea of shaking loose the stagnant emotional forms from the shin, using the breath to help with that. A lot of what I hope to come out of this week for all of you is just a bit of a reset, a reorientation in terms of where your Tai Chi is coming from. Deepening the Chan Tzu Gong practice to the point where that's how it feels right to move. And not moving that way doesn't feel right. The mindset that supports that is the mobilizing chi to transport the body mindset. It's very difficult to think of this mobilizing the chi to transport the body if you don't have good grooves for the energy to run through. And so the Chan Tzu Gong really gives you these lines for energy to easily run through. Once that starts to feel like the way to move, then mobilizing chi doesn't feel like such a big thing. When the shin starts saying, let's go this way, the chi just starts running up those lines. I'm really showing you this week a way to do Tai Chi completely differently than you've done it before or thought about doing it before. That's the intention, that you'll walk away and go, oh, I'm doing Tai Chi, I'm doing different Tai Chi now. I've got a different Tai Chi that I'm practicing, even if it's the same forms or even if it's the same practices. Internal alchemy can take place, the space in which transformation of energies can take place. In this space, there's a big chamber, a cauldron, and a furnace, a boiling furnace. When we think of the Dantian, we're now thinking a little beyond the idea of Dantian as center of gravity, center of movement. We're thinking of Dantian as that place where the transformation takes place. This is the basic idea of the process. We've got useless forms of stuck energy. We want to break them apart, reorient them down instead of up, melt them, and then take that energy and move it in a more conscious way, a more purposeful way that isn't based on the drama of daily life. It's a more conscious way of moving the energy. When we speak about root in Tai Chi, the root is in the feet, the energy is up through the legs. But the root has another meaning in Qigong as well. And that's essentially where the energy starts in the inner chambers. When we're speaking about the root of energy that way, it's different than the root is in the feet. And so this seated practice is for circulating energy through the body and finding the root in a different way. If you want to circulate energy through the body while doing Tai Chi, standing on your feet, sometimes only on one leg, forget it. It's too difficult. by working with the seated practice, we can isolate some aspects of the practice. The process involves breaking some things apart that are normally tied together. The emotions pull the chi away from its normal ability to circulate through the body. What our first work is here is to be able to break the heart, the shin, away from emotional drama. But the chi cannot do this because it's completely wrapped up in the shin, and the shin is wrapped up in the emotions and the emotional thoughts. So the first process that needs to take place is a decoupling of the chi and the shin. The first alchemical concept is the decoupling of the energy from the emotional structures. This energy has become quite stagnant. It's not enough to just break it apart into little flakes. We have to melt it down. The first stage is the decoupling. The second stage is really the reorienting. We're taking that energy and orienting it away from the emotional structure. This is the so-called sink chi to dantian. We have to break it apart from the place where it isn't useful. Then we have to orient it to the furnace. And what we want to do is we want to heat that furnace up and melt that metal so that we can make it into something else. So that's the smelting process. As Tai Chi players, we want to be able to move based on mobilizing chi. We want to be able to have the shin ask the chi to mobilize the body. The heart, the way we tend to think of it in the West, the heart is here, and here's the mind. We have to recognize that emotions produce emotion-based thoughts. One of the ways we experience thought, and often a very fundamental way, is emotional thought. The things that are disturbing us. We have our emotional responses to things, and they very quickly start to hijack the thought process. I just can't think clearly because my emotional thoughts are dominating all the other thoughts. The only way that the emotional content and the thoughts that are connected to that emotional content can be sustained is if they have a source of energy. You have to continually feed energy to those emotions and to those thoughts for them to dominate. This is chi. Shin is not only the emotions, but the emotion-based thoughts. Sometimes people say, oh, the shin is the heart and the mind. But it's not all aspects of the mind. It's those aspects of the mind that are strongly connected to the heart. That might, for some people, feel like all of the mind because they live completely in their emotion-based thoughts. So, for example, if a person is highly insecure or super driven, they're driven from some emotional place. They may not really experience much in the way of other thoughts because they're completely dominated by emotions. We're going to start very simply by aligning the three dantians. The upper dantian, the middle dantian, and the lower dantian aligned. So the first is to line up the head over the chest, over the stomach. And then we're going to use the 5 words of self-composure to try and reach a place where we feel basically settled. We don't have to reach the deepest states, but enough to practice. So just for a few moments, breath, calm, center, root, energy, particularly the first ones, breath, calm, center. So this is preparation. The first exercise is related to the Valle. We want to sit with the Valle elevated. It's along with the idea of aligning the three dantians. So the first one is Valle up. This whole first brocade is called Beat the Heavenly Drum. The counting in this exercise is a bit strange. It's old traditional Qigong counting, odd numbers. So this is 36 times, with 3 groups of 12. And the exercise is clicking the teeth together 36 times. So it means making a sound like this. The first 12 times that we do this, we just want to hear the sound resonating in our heads. Click 12 times and listen to the resonance of the clicks in your head. The next one, you want to click the teeth and have the resonance of the click shake your heart. Shake it enough that the shit that's attached to it starts to break off. We can see the heart as a kind of cavern like this, where the chi that's been recruited by the heart, the chi that the heart pulls into its emotional activities, that chi that kind of gets stuck there. And what we want to do is shake some of that loose. So the attached energy that is clinging to the heart, we want to click and resonate in a way that we just feel like little pieces are falling off. It'd take a long time to get it all off of them, and it's always accumulating. So you don't have to do it all at once. See if you can shake it loose. Make a few cracks in it so that the hard stuff gradually comes loose and the soft stuff just drips off. And let it fall into the dantian, into this pot that's going to burn it all up and repurpose it. So what we're doing is we're decoupling the chi from the shin 12 times. I usually take a little more time with this second one than the first one, so I can feel something going on that's like what I'm describing. And it can be very pleasant, it can be very powerful emotionally, to feel and boom, like, ooh, a piece fell off. That's a little nasty, that one. You can kind of get into that one. The next 12 should resonate in the whole chamber. So 12 times, like you were in a cave and you went, and you could hear the resonance. The whole 3 bowls. Yeah. Yeah. So 12 times. Keep a bit of an awareness of the Valle, that you're sitting up into the Valle. That's 36. Okay, 3 12s. The second part of this exercise is 24 times. So it's 3 groups of 8. And in this one, we take the fingers, like so, flick them on the back of the head, called the jade pillow. The first 8 are resonating in the head. So you cover your ears, and then you count 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, up to 8. Okay, so you're going to flick 16 times, really. From the head top, from the Valle. The next round of 8 is The same idea like the stalactites, the crap falling off, but from emotional thoughts. So not so much from the heart down here, but the stuff that builds up here, the rigid emotional thoughts. Connect and break off that stuff. Break that chi away from these forms. And all the while, you're just breathing naturally. So if we think of this idea of Shin as emotions and emotion-based thoughts, we're trying to break up their stronghold. Index on middle finger, and you're smacking with the index finger. The third time, it's like the third time of the clicking the teeth. We bonk, and we hear the resonance in the whole inner chamber, top to bottom. Okay, so 8 more times. And that's the first one. This one is waving the pillar. So it's like a giant pillar that you're going to shake and make it wave and move in the wind. And this basically the spinal column here. False dantian, or the qi hai. We're very close to the dantian. I do this always in the tai chi like this. Yeah. Start to heat up the furnace. So imagine it like this stuff has dropped into the furnace. 3 sets of 8, and we're going to turn in 3 different ways. From the qi hai. Qi hai is an acupuncture point. It's like a 2 centimeter, about an inch below the navel. This whole brocade is centered on qi hai. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the points that would go along the conception vessel. Here we're turning from the central point, and we're turning to look at something. We hear something and look at it, like you're listening to something, hearing something. Did someone say my name? So from here, turn 8 times. Left, right is 1 time. All of these, by the way, just breathe naturally. You don't have to worry too much about the breathing, at least at the outset. I generally do it with my eyes closed, but you could have your eyes open as well. So you turn, and then you stop turning. And then you turn, and you stop turning. Exactly, yeah. Okay, the second variation is also 8, and it's more like we're going to turn as if we're pushing the turn. So I'm going to turn and look behind me, but it's going to be like my eyes are being pushed to look at something. It's the idea of driving my attention to the side, releasing it, driving my attention to the side, releasing it. So left and right counts as 1, and we're going to do 8 turns like that. Third one is really vertical, qi hai, and you can kind of come back to the baihui thing, and we're going to turn mechanically on that center. In the first ones, you might, for example, have your hands here, but this one, it's hard to do it with the arms here. You might even need to lift the arms off a little bit, and then turn 1, 2, 3. The third one, this one is kind of one of the most disciplined ones. Doing this 36 times is quite a process. It takes time, it takes concentration, and it can be quite intense. We generate 3 gulps of saliva. So we're going to generate saliva and swallow it 3 times. And the way we generate the saliva, as saliva by the Taoists was considered to be like the pure essence, it's good for the digestion, it's good for the qi circulation. The idea of this is to agitate the furnace. We do it by running the tongue inside the teeth from the bottom. So you know at the bottom of your tongue there's a little ridge, a little line. And we're going to run that around up to the roof of the mouth, where we would connect the upper and lower channels. Inside the mouth, around and up, and then down to the bottom again, and around and up to the other side, and down again. And that counts as one. So your tongue is just touching its own base. And then you're going to go on the left side, up and over to the top, where you would be connected with the tongue on the roof of the mouth. So on the roof of the mouth, where you feel like you've got a kind of almost electrical connection, or you know this sensation if you chewed on tin foil? There can be a sensation, something like that, between your tongue and the roof of the mouth. If my lips were the inside of my mouth, it would be like this. Rub the inside of your mouth right up to the roof of the mouth, then back down to the, and then back up the other side. This is 12 times.
Is there Italian face in the middle?
Actually, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. What do you think? Your eyes follow the movement.
Yeah.
Your eyes are closed, and they're going to follow. And it's not difficult to do. You can make your nice yang handshake. You're centered in the mysterious past, which means you're, in a sense, looking into emptiness with your eyes closed. 12 times, each time that you come up and come down and back, you get a little saliva in the back. And you want that to build up. You want to actually kind of create a little pool of saliva. So that on the 12th one, we're going to swallow it. You start at the bottom, go up once, come down, go up the other side once, come down, gather up a little bit of saliva, help build it up, and that's one. And then you do that 12 times. And then when you've done 12, each time building up a little saliva, you just do a simple swallow of the saliva into the stomach. It has a feeling like steam coming through the whole, okay? So I say this one is a kind of one of the most disciplined ones, because doing this 36 times is quite a process. It takes time, it takes concentration, and it can be quite intense. You know. The next one, you do exactly the same thing, except the eyes go opposite. It would be that if I'm going this way, here, my eyes are going to go this way. It's like you're going, oh,
yeah.
Oh. It's a bit tricky at first to do it. If you're trying to do things symmetrically with your hands, sometimes it's easier to start with this hand and have this one follow that one, rather than try to do them together. It's probably easier to lead with the eyes and have the tongue go away from the eyes and come back to the eyes, rather than have the eyes try to go away from the tongue. Here's kind of a tip that'll make it possibly seem a little less silly. When we do the first one, and we come with the eyes up to here, we're bringing our eyes and our attention to the mysterious past. And then we're dropping it down, now to the mysterious past. Here we're approaching the mysterious past again, but in opposition. This creates a kind of intensity in the way you see into that space. Up one side with the tongue, but up the other side with the eyes. Try the best you can. Don't worry if you don't get it first time, but give it a go. And of course, when you get back to the bottom, after doing the two sides, you gather saliva. And then when you've completed the 12 and you swallow the saliva, you swallow into the furnace of the dantian. And there's a tai-yin in each one. So we're going around to the top, that's a tai-yan, release to tai-yin, up to tai-yan, down to tai-yin. The first one, just swallow in a sense like you're preparing for things to follow with the swallow. In the second one, you're a little more conscious about it. You're swallowing it into the furnace, and it's going to join with this stuff that's starting to melt and bubble. Mm-hmm. The saliva is going to become a part of that. So the first one, it's like you're creating the path, but the second one, the saliva is more charged, and it's coming down into the furnace. The third one, when you swallow the saliva, you let its essence fill the whole chamber. So once again, try 12. It's much easier actually than the second one, except for that the eyes might have a tendency to want to start following the tongue, and we don't want that. We want the eyes to stay in the mysterious past. 12 times. Last, gather saliva each time. Last saliva fills the whole chamber. You're centered in the mysterious past, which means you're, in a sense, looking into emptiness with your eyes closed. When you do the 12 times, each time that you come up and come down and back, you get a little saliva in the back. And you want that to build up. Create a little pool of saliva. So that on the 12th one, we're going to swallow it. Yeah, so you start at the bottom, go up once, come down, go up the other side once, come down, gather up a little bit of saliva, help build it up, and that's one. And then you do that 12 times. And then when you've done 12, each time building up a little saliva, you just do a simple swallow of the saliva into the stomach. The next one, you do exactly the same thing, except the eyes go opposite. It would be that if I'm going this way, here, my eyes are going to go this way. It's a bit tricky at first to do it. So it's like you're going, oh,
yeah.
Oh. It takes a bit of practice. You know how if you're trying to do things symmetrically with your hands, sometimes it's easier to start with this hand and have this one follow that one, rather than try to do them together. It's a bit easier, maybe for you, for me anyways, to lead with the eyes and have the tongue go away from the eyes and come back to the eyes, rather than have the eyes try to go away from the tongue. When we do the first one, and we come with the eyes up to here, we're bringing our eyes and our attention to the mysterious past. Here we're approaching the mysterious past again, but in opposition. this creates a kind of intensity in the way you see into that space. The mysterious past has an in-out quality, but it also has an up-down quality. The in-out quality has to do with the way you experience the outer world from an inner space. Like, think about that. We experience this as somehow outside of us, and yet it's all contained within us. We're in here, and yet all of this out here is somehow actually in here. It's all contained inside you. This is a very mysterious pass from inside to outside. And if you go all the way back in through that pass, you enter the spirit valley. The spirit is like the little ghost that's you. Something like that, that's back there, that's having this whole experience. So that's the in and out aspect of it. And then there's a vertical aspect of it too, which is that your governing vessel goes to the roof of your mouth, and then at the bottom of your mouth starts the conception vessel. And they're not connected until the tongue touches the roof of the mouth. Linking up this vertical energy set that passes through the spirit valley. Try the best you can. Don't worry if you don't get it first time, but give it a go. And of course, when you get back to the bottom, after doing the two sides, you gather saliva. And then when you've completed the 12 and you swallow the saliva, you swallow into the furnace of the dantian. You're swallowing it into the furnace, and it's going to join with this stuff that's starting to melt and bubble. Mm-hmm. The saliva is going to become a part of that. The last of the three here. And this is the one that kind of makes the second one more worthwhile. So the first one, like Javi said, it's like you're creating the path. But the second one, the saliva is more charged, and it's coming down into the furnace. The third one, when you swallow the saliva, you let its essence fill the whole chamber. It's much easier, actually, than the second one, except for that the eyes might have a tendency to want to start following the tongue, and we don't want that. We want the eyes to stay in the mysterious past. 12 times, gather saliva each time, last saliva fills the whole chamber. This next one is actually massaging the kidneys, but we want to massage the kidneys with a focus on the shuangguan, so that the kidneys are kind of open and hanging. The shuangguan is about here. Shuang means double guan, so it's a double passage because one is it represents the change from the lower half here to the upper half. When we look at this in terms of breathing, we have our passive and then active, and that passes through this point. But it's also a passageway from the back to the front. In the front, we've got a kind of a hole, a little bit lower than the heart area. And this is a passageway through to the back. You could stick a needle right through there. This passage is double because it serves to articulate this changeover from here to here, and it's also a way from front to back. Hang him here, and his lower back would just naturally hang from that point. It's as if the lower part of the back hangs from here, the upper part of the back hangs from here, and the whole thing hangs from here. Just sink down in your legs and just let your lower back hang. So the lower back, the kidneys, are just kind of dangling from that point. If we let that relax, the kidneys relax. If everything's kind of compressed on the kidneys, they're hard to massage. Suspending from the shuangguan is so you don't have so much resistance when you're massaging the kidneys. The first version of massaging the kidneys, you use the fists. You reach back and you use your wrists and fists and you just massage in that area. You just dig into that area. Then you put your fists on your pillow and you push up a little bit and let everything hang in the kidney area. So it's like you're hanging from the shuangguan, the way I was showing with Matt. And then you do it again. And we would do that 12 times. How much you massage is up to you. The more you do it, the better it feels. But the more you do it, the more time it takes. Use your fists like a monkey, like an ape. Lift up and let that dangle. Really open up that lower back. You can jiggle around too if you want to really get it open. There's a tendency to need to lean forward to get into the kidneys here. You just hang from the shuangguan here, but you can lean above the shuangguan. As any of you have put a bit of time into Qigong know, massaging the kidneys is a real staple Qigong exercise. The Yuan Jing is there. Yuan means original and Jing means essence. So according to traditional Qigong theory, Neigong theory, the essence of your two parents, of your mother and father, is in the kidneys. It's residing in the kidneys. The Yuan Jing can get very stuck. You tend to get a lot of lower back tension, lower back pain, static energy in there, and we want to massage and open that so that the Yuan Jing can move freely and become part of the mixing and melting process. In the Zhongli instructions, it says that you do this 36 times, but if you do it more times, it's even more wonderful. So it's the only one that has an expression like this. So you'll see in the parks in China, if people are doing Qigong, often they're walking around beating their kidneys, massaging their kidneys, bending forward, rubbing the kidneys. People use little sticks to gently beat the kidneys, this sort of thing. You can even get in there with some pounding. The second one is, now you want to use the palms, the fingers, to get in behind. The first one is like this. You're using these guys and the wrists. The second one, you're getting fingers in here, and you want to get inside the kidneys in a way that you can't with the fists and the wrists. And you want to get also the thumbs a little bit in the front here. There's a space between the ribs and the hips, and you want to open that up 12 times. Each time you put your hands now on your cushion this way, palm down, and lift up, and hang from the shuangguan. Use your fingertips and your thumbs to get into there. What you're really feeling for is where it actually feels good to do that. Where it actually is a little bit stuck. So you go, oh yeah, right in there. Oh, that's good. And then stand up a little bit. You could, if you want, you could push on the floor like this. Yeah, sometimes you might get a click in your back. And even the vertebrae will open a little bit. So we'll say we have 12 now. One more set of 12. And in this one, you try to go a little further and see if you can cross your fingers. The energy of this kidney across the spine, and the energy of this kidney across the spine. Bring that energy around. Watch the hand and the hip. So you come into here, and then ride all the way up to the knee. You're trying to bring the energy all the way from one side of the back, all the way up to the knee, as if this was going to be one unit. But we want the feeling that this whole thing is one. All the way around here. So it's not just a leg on this side, a leg on this side, but that this whole thing is one energetic unit. My left kidney across to the right knee. And from my right kidney all the way across to my left knee. Open your hands quite wide, so you're just... Okay. We try that 12 times. I also take the opportunity here usually to kind of massage a little bit like the muscles here. So I get around in here. Ooh, that's a little tender. Yeah, get that. Open that up, cross. Oh, there it is. Bring it all across. Under the skin, in the fatty layer, sometimes it can be a little hard, and you can break up that harder fatty stuff. Do that kind of thing too. You can have the wind blowing, turning a thing that draws water. It could be blowing that way, or it could be blowing this way. So the first one of these is based on the thing turning this way. Another image you could use for this one is if you were drawing water from a well with a handle, with one hand, pushing down, letting it up, pushing down. Or you could do it with the other hand. We have a new point of focus, and that's the place in front of the Shuangguan. It's called the Scarlet Palace, or the Red Palace. We're moving around this area. The first one, we're going to just let the wrist rise and then push down. A loose palm and then a more focused on. We're down the front part of the small circulation, past Hui Yin, comes up the back part, but only to here. You can coordinate this with the breath, and you're going to do 12 times with each hand. You have the idea, this stomach furnace, that you're stoking the furnace. And same thing on the other side. You know the idea when you blow on a fire and then the heat comes up? Right? It gets very hot and the heat rises out of it. Now when you've done 12, go back to the first arm and do with the wrist and the elbow. And then the elbow and the wrist. And then replace this one with this one and do the same. The heng ha can be as audible as you like when you practice. It's just the sound that your body makes when you release. Now I've got one more here. And then with the shoulder, wrist, elbow, shoulder, all the way up to the throat. The power is not in the upstroke here. This is fairly passive, and then the active part is here's where we're pulling down with the resistance. And then from here, we're letting it spring up, more or less. Here it's basically a Tai Chi practice. If you want to turn it into more of a Neigong, as well as drawing physically here, you draw from the sexual energy, you draw from the content of the furnace, and from the kidneys. So you want this all to mix and melt. It's almost like you had a press, like a grape press, and you're going And then when you release it, it goes. Maybe think about going to Valle. So then you're not thinking so much about Tai Chi, push handsy Tai Chi. You're thinking about Negong circulation to the head top. Put on your intuition glasses here. So I'm up here. And I'm feeling my perineum helping lift. It's going through the kind of the butt and into the spine, up the spine to the top of my head, if I use the Valle, and then from here down. It's like making wine. You're taking all of these raw substances, bringing them together, and then putting them through a process of refinement. By the end of a few cycles, you're starting to feel something like this. A bit like a dragon looking over. Creates a very, very strong energy. You squeeze the energy down. It's good and squishy. You release it, it starts to want to come up, and then you use the perineum to help it up that little bit extra. Release it all. Oh, I'm feeling that one. Here it comes. Whoops. There it is. All the way to the top. I feel that one. That's what it's like internally. It's very juicy. Oh, yeah. Ooh, here it comes. Oh, yeah. You feel that one? Woo! Right to the head top. The feeling is that you're making the juice. You're making the wine. You're stirring all of this stuff up. If you think about it in terms of the Tai Chi classics, the Shin can move the Qi, but then later they're talking about make the Jingshen raise to the head top. Make the spirit come to the head top. It's this process. The first is like break up all the stagnant stuff. Okay, where are we here? I didn't even realize I felt this way. Whew. Let me settle that down a bit. Okay. Yeah, it's a bit stuck in there. Let me get that. How do I get in there? How do I get in there? I can't. Like, I can't. What have I got? What are my tools for breaking that stuff up? Well, there's stuff inside here that I can operate. I can do, let me try that. Yeah, it's more up here. Get that shit out of there. Just melt that all. Let's, energy down. It's a bit stiff. Let's open this whole fucking thing up. It's just too. Okay, I think I'm ready. No, I gotta get way inside. Yeah, that's another tool, the saliva. Oh yeah. I'm feeling it. Yeah, it's starting to get stuff going in here, but back here I'm still, I'm almost on my way here. I could probably actually practice this if I could just get this stuff. Okay, let me try it now. Let me start. Yeah, let's get this harness going. Let's get this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Let's start then. Kind of like that. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh, we can really get it going here. See, this is what it is. You know, it's not 36 times, click the T. Now, 24 times, tap the head. Having tapped the head, rotate the spine. Right? It's juicy. It's juicy. If you had a pulley thing, like for pulling up the water, you wouldn't have one that goes this way. But you would have one that goes this way with two. And that's the one that we're on now. The focal point for that one is the so-called Yu-Gen, jade pillow. So that's right in the little soft spot below the bone here. That's the jade pillow. You pull up to here. You don't go pull. You can think of it as like a physical support for this. And each of them is a little different. We're using the wrist 12 times, elbow 12 times, shoulder 12 times. Even though the circle is kind of backwards, the breathing still goes up the spine, down the front, up the spine, down the front. So the first bit with the two hands is like this. You take the two wrists and you pull, and it's the lower back. So it's like you're pulling against the lower back, and then you're letting it down. When you pull this way and come down, you've got a circle that's going this way. Right? But at the same time, you've got the circulation and spine going this way. So we've got something more like this, energetically, internally. Does that remind us of anything? What?
The eyes and the tongue.
The eyes and the tongue, right?
Yeah.
You can see a little bit of a similar theme here, although that was all within one exercise. These two exercises repeat this kind of idea. When you pull up with the wrist, this is now the active part. That's what I'm doing. And the other one I was, you know, it's like if you were squeezing, rinsing out clothes or something. Now, this time I'm hanging the clothes up to dry or something like that. Here's the active thing, and this is basically the passive thing. Lift up with the wrist and bring the energy up the spine. We're just again in the belly area. Now I let it fall down the front, very passively, and let the fists be very passive too. And then when I come up here, I'm really lifting, and the back is lifting as well. So I've got wrist and lower back. Give me a nice firm grab here. So I'm going to make this palm, and I'm going to support it in the spine. So that's what we're doing in this one. It's just like our Tai Chi practice. Right? Wrist, energy comes up the spine, one, and down. The ha is very passive, but the hum. And the second thumb makes 12. Okay? Thinking of our counting yesterday. As you get more comfortable with the timing and the sequence of this, you start to do this Jin pulling alchemical process, and the Hui Yin helps you to do that. But when I'm pulling, it's also it reminds me a bit of a horse going. You know how a horse is. If I had the weight here, and I'm just doing this. Okay. Yeah, and then later we'll go. And then later we'll go, right? So weightlifters actually do that. They practice the first part of the lift. They practice the phases, and they put them together. The second one, wrist elbow. So you're going to pull up, and then the elbows will start to get under the wrists. So now your circulation is going higher. So we're going up to the middle of the back. And then we're going to crest over the diaphragm valve. Wrists, elbows, elbows, wrists. Breathing in, moving up the back, down the front. I'm not sure what number we're on, but I know I'm on the middle knuckle of my right hand. So I'm not counting. And now the next one, the next set of 12, is going to involve the shoulders. So we're going to go wrist, elbow, shoulder. Same idea. Circulation is going to go all the way up to the throat, if I'm thinking Tai Chi exercise, or it could go all the way to the head top. Here we go. Now, armpits, elbow, sitting wrist. Wrist, elbow, shoulder. Armpit, elbow, sitting wrist. Just watch, I've got a nice little thing going, just to let you kind of see it in on it. Now it's starting to boil. My belly is boiling. Part of this exercise, both the last one and this one, numbers 5 and 6, is it's like you're getting the furnace going. You're getting the fire lit, and things are starting to bubble. So this is called tongue, boiling. You want it that the abdomen starts to boil and energy starts to move. And when that starts happening, Al, that's when you can, for example, start using the perineum in coordination. We've got energy bouncing around and moving, and when we do the gesture here, and we're bringing it up, we feel the energy rising up the spine. Draw it right up. This starts to really get active internally. This is spoken about also in the Tai Chi classes. This one is called supporting heaven. The center of this one is the Mingmen. When you're practicing in your room and there's people in the other room, you might modify some of the sounds you make. It starts with warming up the palms, like so. You just clap. And you really want to get the lao gong, the center of the palms, warm. And the hands feeling stuck together. And then we're going to do the breath in. The first one is very small, going up the spine, but only in the belly, and then out, and we're going to press into the palms, and we're going to make the sound. So we've got the hang and the right? If you were trying to, push a car out of a ditch and you go, just get this thing moving, right? It's just a push. You do it 5 times. Try to gather up negative stuff, negative feelings, emotions, thoughts. Gather them up from the region and press them into the lao gong. We'll start it again from scratch. Breathe in. Now, keep the palms together with all that negative stuff in there. Lift them up. Let it out. Now, it's gone. Get that out. Push the two palms up and look up. When you release, you leave your head more or less up so that the top of your head is in front of the bump of the byway. So we have the little hole in the head. We talked about this the other day, the part that was open when you were a baby. And in front of it, there's a bump. And in front of that bump, there's another kind of a center. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our palms on that center. That center is more accessible because we looked up. You can imagine if you were looking down, you'd catch another center. But this is in front of the bumpy byway. And then you're going to push down on your skull to the Mingmen. And you're going to push up from the Mingmen to the top of your skull. And then you're going to relax. Open the hands. Catch clean energy, clear energy. Touch again. And down your face, your arms, bring this positive energy. Down the front, to the tummy. Inside your legs. And again. Now, the old instructions, it's very funny, say you can do this 3 times or 9 times. So there's going to be 3 variations of the same exercise. You can do them once, each one, or you can do them 3 times each one. If you had negative energy in you, you might have deep instinctive fears, deep-rooted anxieties in the belly, or they might be more like mental negativity. In the first one, it's more like anxieties, deep fears. The next one is more like we're circling up and we're scooping up all like the emotional negativity. Nice and hot, make the hands warm, right? Make the laudo receptive. Now, circle up, way in up to the kind of the emotional level, down into the palms again, and once again. Emotional ones. Take that negativity and press it in. Up it comes. Keep it in there. Don't get it all over your face. And then open. Let it out. Ugh. Bye, 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 bye. Now from here, push up. This is the supporting the heaven idea. Keep the head forward. When we come down, so it's like we're gathering heavenly energy. Now we're going to come on the bump byway, that bone that's kind of sticking out there. And again, push that down to the Mingmen and push the Mingmen up. And then release. Catch energy. And now down the side of the head, the ears, the neck, change to the side of the body. And we could do that 3 times. The third one is the same. The main difference is the circle is higher. It could go right over the top of the throat, or it could go right up the byway. This is a nice one to do to the byway because it's, you want to gather up negative thoughts. But you can do that even if you make the circulation here. Same thing, just a bigger circle. Okay? So once more. Up in there, let them out, get away. Supporting the heaven, this time looking down with the head. And now when we come down, we're going to press on that byway that's the hole. And you're going to push down through that structure to the Mingmen and push from the Mingmen up. It's like you're pushing from Mingmen up to Laogong. It's quite a very strong line through the spine. And then let it go. Catch clean, clear energy. Whew. Again, to the top of the head and rub down the neck. If you want to stop and massage your neck or massage the spine a little bit area. And then from here, down and get those kidneys again. Very much like the fourth exercise. And around to here. Now we just did it 3 times. We did 1 of each. You can do 3 of each. So do it 3 or 9 times. There's a difference between mental negativity, emotional negativity, and things like deep anxiety. Deep anxiety is in the belly. It absolutely doesn't matter what goes right. I have this uneasy feeling all the time. Everything just feels a little shaky and vibrating. I don't know what it is. It's somewhere in the belly. I can't access it with my thinking. I can't identify these emotions. I don't know how to express this. It's just a bad feeling in my gut. People are such fucking, and I read, I'm not, I just want to cry, I just hate it. That's not the same as whatever deep anxiety is. It's here. And the other is more like, why don't you speak more clearly, Sam? Then people might understand you. But you've been like this since you were a child. Or whatever it is, your negative thoughts. So there's negative thoughts, negative emotions, just deep negative feelings. And how can qi circulate smoothly and flow? How can the shin feel at ease enough to guide the qi? How can the qi not be attached to all of that, energizing it, if it's there and it's habitual? We just all have our own versions of it. We're human beings. This aspect of the practice is to try and get rid of it. This one is thankfully shorter. It's 12 repetitions, 4 variations. And now you need to kind of consolidate this energy and exit the practice. Unfold your legs and you stretch them out here. You can do it sitting on your cushion, or you can slide off your cushion if you feel more comfortable. This is called grasping with hooks. So the hands become hooks. They grab the feet. Now we're going to alternate pulling on the feet 12 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, 12. The bottom of the foot, the yongquan, is open. And you want to allow energy to come in through the yongquan to the huiyin. You sit up, drawing energy through the bottom of the feet and breathing in. That's a heng. From the hui yin, come into the spine, all the way up to the head top. Your exhalation, relax, everything comes to hui yin again. And as you come forward, exhale and out the soles of the feet. Like you're exhaling out the soles of your feet. We're not really making a circle. We're coming up the center, through the bone marrow, up the center of the core, and then back down. In the core and back out the feet. So it doesn't have a circulation quality. You're going to do another 12, but these ones are going to be pulling with the 2 hands back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And then relax. And again, breathe in as if you were breathing in through the soles of your feet. Up through the bone marrow of the legs, all the way to the hui yin. From the hui yin up to the top, up through the spine, more like the chongmei or the center of the body, up to the head top. And then exhale, passive exhalation, all the way to the hui yin. Breathing out, pushing energy out through the legs, through the bottoms of the feet. And this time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to go further, as far as we can. So like your wrists are on your toes. And then the soles of your feet, you're going to pat them. In fact, I'm going to take my shoes off. Yongchuan. When I say 4 times, it means we should do this guy here down 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
12 times.
Yeah. And with feet, you can be liberal about the number. It's 12, but I sometimes do more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then breathe in, come all the way up. All the way down, and do that again, alternating. Second round, pulling the 2. And do that 4 times. And then the last one, with the tapping the feet, the tapping the yongchuan, 4 times. Essentially an inhalation, so when you let that go, it's like and if that's too much for you, you can skip breathe. Normal breathing here, nothing special. Let it go, then go in. And I often, when I'm in here, I'll find these little spots that need massaging, and I'll just take more time. And then come back up again. The ancients breathed clear down to their heels. Yeah, that's a bit in Zhuangzi. The idea of your breath going all the way to your feet. When you have your legs open and stretched like that, it's a nice relief from having sat. And after you complete that, you draw the legs back in and just do a little bit of centering. So essentially, once again, make sure your line is there. Breath, calm, center, root energy. So do that practice a little bit. I don't believe there's really a cauldron in there that's really got got liquid boiling in it.
So it's some muscles.
Yeah. So there's a big cave, a cavern. And you go into the cave and there's a giant geyser that falls from the roof, and you can stand under it in the water. It's amazing. It's, you know, people just spontaneously go there and stand around it like it's a god. It's actually shaped very much like this sort of energetic structure here. You've got the byway, a passage going, and this channel going all the way down to here. And then you've got the mouth of the cave, and you go way back deep into the cave. And actually, this is how all of this old Taoist imagery is. When they don't show a picture of the body, they show a picture of a mountain with all of these paths running up and down it. And then you realize, oh, those are eyeballs. This is very Taoist kind of way of seeing and thinking of stuff, right? The kidneys are named after the sun and moon, so they're like a heavenly kingdom. And the sun and moon represent the Yuanjing, the original essence that comes from your two parents. So obviously there's a mother represented by the moon in most languages, and then there's a father represented by the sun. 7,000 channels to choose from. We have so many options. What did people do when there were very, very few options? What do? What's the channels that you like? These ones. These channels. The governing channel, the conception channel. There's a lot going on in there. In fact, it's kind of like a mountain. It's like I'm journeying up a mountain. And there's a fiery woman at the center of it. And between the sun and the moon, it's like, you know, so they describe the kidneys this way, and there's a whole cosmology inside the body. Because that's way more interesting to travel through than all this, that's just another war, like in China especially, like non-stop war. And it's all horse shit and pig shit and cow shit, and everything stinks, and people are awful to one another, and what am I going to do with my time? And so they did this kind of stuff. Sometimes, for me, I feel it a little distracting to be focusing on numbers, like counting numbers in my head. A little trick for counting them is you've got 10 fingers plus 2 thumbs. So on the first count, you activate the left thumb. Second, other finger, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, thumb. And then you don't have to think of the numbers, you just get the habit of activating the fingers, and you'll get the right count without counting. It takes a little practice. If you're doing the repetition, let's say with the clicking the teeth, and you go, and you didn't activate the finger, or you didn't move it, or didn't mentally go to the next finger, you might lose count, even though you're not counting. You just need a little small movement. It doesn't even have to be visible movement. It's just that thumb awakes, that index finger awakes. And by the time you've gone down, oops, that's 10, and then 2 more. If you do this, and then the Baduanjin, and then the long yang form, you're into 2.5 hours, depending on your tempo of things. But 2.5 hours of practice a day isn't totally unreasonable. You know, there's lots of things that we do for 2.5 hours a day. And if you wanted to add to that other Tai Chi training, do your sword, and you know, those forms are so short, but you could go through all of your solo practice in about 3.5 hours, 4 hours, or something like that. That is serious practice, you know, which isn't necessarily for everyone, but it's a question. if you were a musician, you wouldn't blink to put in 4 hours of practice. You wouldn't think of anything unusual about it, right? Or if you were a video gamer. Video gamers regularly put 6-8 hours of obsessive practice on it. Somewhere, you know. It just depends on what you're into and what you want to spend your time on. Right? So I mean, I'm not saying that I practice 4 hours a day, or I don't even practice every single day, you know. But it's not unreasonable to do this practice every day. 40 minutes devoted to this. It's said, I don't know yet that this is true, but this practice, this Zhongli practice, in whatever variation or form, was practiced by Zen monks, like Chan monks. They used actually these exercises to warm up for their Zen practices. They're quite physical. We get quite physical in a seated position, and they're to help with long bouts of sitting. So, if you're doing long periods of seated meditation, you can use this as a break to limber up the body without getting up off the cushion. Or this can be your preparation, because doing long periods of sitting can cause stagnation in the body, and this can be a way to break up the stagnation. You know, some people's bodies don't sit so well as other people's bodies. Characteristic of this exercise is you can get bright flashes of light, you can get figures appearing, things can start happening there. For a long time when I did it, I had a very odd little persistent shape kind of moving around, and then it wasn't there anymore. Don't try to whip things up or generate things. Or also for me, this is sometimes where I'll get a lot of shaking going on, churning, bubbling in the dantian area and in the crotch. Sometimes I really feel like my balls are churning. Tai Chi is often attributed to Zhang Sanfeng. He was an historical figure at Wudang Mountain who, according to records, was the head of a particular sect of Taoism at Wudang Mountain. The sect that Zhang Sanfeng led was the spontaneous sect, the world of what we would call spontaneous Qigong. You want this boiling to take place spontaneously, and then you want to direct and guide the results. It's an unusual way that the muscles are working. It's not the way your muscles work when you play volleyball, or run track and field, or lift weights. It's a way your muscles spontaneously begin to work when you're doing internal arts practices. It's qi circulating through your body, and it's there to heal you. So allow it. If you start shaking and you have an injury, the shaking will not further the injury. But if you start shaking beyond and you start finding little aches and pains, you're whipping at them, make it stop. Observe it, enjoy it, watch it, be careful of it. You don't want to be in a situation where you can't turn it off. That's a psychological problem, not being able to turn it off. I'm different than everybody else. People always like that, but I don't like that, but I can do this. I need recognition for my specialness because I'm a shaker after all. Did you know that? Right? Well, it's okay. It's not a sin. It's not a crime. It's not, it's not the worst psychological illness to suffer from. There's way worse psychological illnesses than thinking I'm special because I shake. It's not the worst, but it's not really a center. When we build our self-identity out of that, it's not really being very well centered psychologically or emotionally, right? So not to let it have too much importance, but not to try and tamp it down or stop it or prevent it from happening or think there's something wrong with it either. It's just natural. If you're open if you let energy flow through your body, stuff like that should happen. There's other activities that can lead to that kind of movement too, like, the Southern Baptists in the United States. They start shaking, they feel that the Spirit, the Holy Spirit of God enters into them and it starts moving them. I remember Yang Jungming talking about that. He says, oh, that's because they're doing Nego. When they put themselves in a certain receptive place and they offer themselves up to God, they're aligning their energetic system. They believe God is sending the Holy Spirit into them, and that's why that's happening. But a Chinese Neigong master might say, well, yeah, of course, if you put yourself in such a receptive state and you open up so much, things are going to start moving. With that Qigong practice, if you wanted to look at it that way or describe it that way, with that Qigong practice, doing it the way they do it, sitting in benches, for example, right? They have to pop out of those benches and start moving, and they literally start rolling in the aisles. These are Qigong, Neigong states that are triggered by belief structures. If somebody really started studying this phenomena, who was a neurobiologist and started studying the physiology of it, I think in time we'll understand what it actually is, what brain centers are triggered, what nerve paths are triggered, what kind of situations, emotional states, belief states allow us to trigger those brain centers that cause those nervous eruptions. The Qi is transporting the body. You're not saying do this, do that. You're letting it go and the Qi is transporting the body. In some religious communities, Christian religious communities, that's accepted and it's thought of as, part of the process. God has entered in and God is working through the person and cleaning up all of the sin and taking away all of the, the Spirit has entered and is washing me clean. In others, it's like, oh, the person is possessed by the devil. The devil has taken control of them, and we need to exorcise and pull that devil out of them. So the phenomena could be exactly the same. It's highly likely that the phenomenon was associated with epilepsy or confused with epilepsy in ancient Qigong practices and communities. People who would do these practices would start having this phenomenon. And then an epileptic would have a fit, we call a fit, or an epileptic seizure. Wow, this person is a naturally gifted Qigong person. And so in those cultures, those people were not, put in away from society. They were given to a master to give them special training. The master reaches quite high states of this, but not like this kid with no training. Let's take them and teach them the rituals and teach them the practices. So there's actually a way of kind of bringing that into respectability. Don't give it any real special importance. Just keep doing the practice. It's part of the process, but it's no more important than the hip track or relaxing the shoulders or sinking the chest, raising the back, any of those things. It's just part of the process. We could say something like this. The Spirit has location. It's a point, but it's not a measurable point. And we can't say that the Shen, or the Spirit, ends anywhere. But we can say where it's located. It's not 1 inch by 1 inch, 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. It doesn't stop inside. It goes through the mysterious pass, and it is simultaneously inside and outside. This is the infinite point of no magnitude. If we go deep into the Spirit Valley, this is the idea of what is it like where we're looking from. So if I pay attention to where I'm looking from, I get location. But where I'm looking from doesn't stop anywhere. Everything issues from me and comes back to me. It contains everything. And yet, we can't measure what that is. If I'm bringing the energy up to this point, this place where I'm seeing from, I do get a definitely different experience and result than if I let it circulate down here, where I can, use those energies for practicing Tai Chi. When I start bringing them up here, I quickly lose interest in all of that. If we're thinking of it as a Tai Chi practice, supporting Tai Chi, then we think of it one way. So the Valle has a meditative function, but it is an acupuncture point. It's something you find in Chinese medicine. The Qi Hai also. It's a locatable point. This one is a little different. This one's called the mysterious pass. It has a medial quality, like the in and out quality, but it also has a vertical quality. There's an up and down quality. And the region is essentially related to what's called the spirit valley. When we put the tongue on the roof of the mouth, we're connecting the two channels, the governing and conception vessel, essentially at the spirit valley. It's difficult to identify it because we see. Our vision passes through that space. Yesterday we looked at Xuan Guan, and today we're looking at Shuang Guan. Xuan, the word Xuan, as in the mysterious past, means mysterious or mystical or obscure. It's often related to ghostly things having to do with ghosts and spirits. Today we're on our second Guan. We had Valle, Qi Hai, Xuan Guan, and now we're at Shuang Guan. If we look at our ancient Chinese characters, the Guan part of it, Xuan Guan or Shuang Guan, is this first character. And it means pass or passage. It's like a checkpoint, turning point, critical juncture here. And it's made from the character below it, Men. Men is like the character for Mingmen. What we know down here is the Mingmen, right? So part of the character for Guan is Men. There's a relationship between those words, Guan and Men. The Mingmen is a passage, just like the Shuang Guan is a passage, or the Xuan Guan is a passage. Inside of Guan is this word system, twice. And this, according to etymologists, it can be related to threads that are woven together. So you can sort of see the idea of a system as being threads woven together. When we weave things together, we form a system, we form a net or a network. Not entirely strange ideas. And this system is inside a gate, inside a doorway or a passageway. So when we're thinking of a Guan, we're thinking of a passage where some kind of process takes place. It goes through a system. So the idea, for example, of the Xuan Guan, the mysterious past, we're going from the inner world to the outer world. There's some kind of transformation going on as we move through that pass. So this is the Guan idea. Are we having fun yet?
It is very difficult.
Yeah. We need a Fabian Dorian to the principal's office.
Yes.